Hello again, YouTube. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be taking a ride. While we do that, we're going to talk about lane positioning. Get a lot of questions about it, and so we're going to discuss where, when, and how. Let's go. Before we get into today's video, if you like this kind of content, you end up liking this video, do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, do the things that help me out as I'm building the YouTube channel. If you're here from any of my other platforms, if you've been here a while, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you're new here and you'd like to find me on anything else, it's at xmotojack on everything. And now, today's video. Today we're going to be talking about lane positioning, where to be on your bike in the lane. Every single lane is broken up into 3 thirds. You have the center, left third, and right third. As you can see, a single car, truck, whatever it might be, takes up an entire lane. On a motorcycle, it's broken into thirds. Now there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about lane positioning, and a lot of different schools of thought on where, when, and how, but we're taking this premise in a rider in traffic doing the speed limit. And I get asked a lot, I get questioned a lot, and I get called out a lot if I'm not in the right place in the lane. And admittedly, it will slip your mind very easily if you are not conscious about it and consistently making sure you're in the right place in the lane. I posted a video not too long ago of an interaction I had in traffic where a car came up in my own lane, passed me while giving me the middle finger, right? But used my lane that I was in, and because of where I was in the lane, there was enough room for the car to get through, and she had to like go on the bike lane out and around me. All right, now we're gonna watch that video right now, and then we're gonna chat about it. Alright, so as you saw in the video, she came up in my lane. It was actually right down here. I'm in the far lane doing the speed limit, minding my own business, and I'm in what I like to call the safe place in traffic, which is the left third or left of center part of the lane in that lane. So whenever I'm in the right-hand lane and I'm just doing the speed limit, minding my own business, I like to be in the left of center position. Now, there's reasons for that, and we're going to talk about all the reasons why left of center, right of center is in 99% of the time the best place to be in a lane when you're commuting, when you're just traveling. But let's talk about that video. So, I did have plenty of people that agreed that I was in the right place, and because of where I was able to be a little bit more defensive. And you know, that video, it did millions of views on all the different platforms, over 1 million on Facebook. It did similar on Instagram and TikTok. But I had a ton of people telling me that because of where I was in the lane, it invited her to then come into my space, right? Like, because of where I was, and I was hugging the line in the video, you can see that I invited her basically to pass me in my own lane, and I needed to be more defensive. I should be in the center, making sure that I control the whole space. Now, there are times and places where that would be true, right? Where the center is fine to ride, but in traffic, in commuting, and just general cars like this, the center is the most dangerous place to have your tires pretty much for the entirety of your ride. Like, and that's just a fact. So going back to the video, you can see where I was actually really close to the line because I saw her in my rear view mirror. I saw her coming, and I even edged even a little bit more to the center because I literally saw her coming up on me. Like, I didn't want her to rear end me, and I was also a little bit like wary of what she was doing. But even that being said, I was in the left of center, or the left third of the lane, which in my opinion is the proper place to be when you're in the far right lane in a 3-lane highway. So I'm actually going to get over here into the center in the center lane. Now here is kind of like dealer's choice. You can take or pick. But what you don't want to be, and where you don't want to be, is right here. Okay? This is actually the worst place to be, and I'm doing this for demonstration purposes only. This is the worst place to be when you're riding or when you're coming to a stop. So when I come to a stop here and I'm directly behind this car, we've talked about this before, if the car behind me fails to brake, loses its brakes, doesn't see me, and I get rear-ended from behind, what's going to happen is I'm going to get sandwiched in between this car, that car, and this car, right? And that's no good. Like, I don't want to be sandwiched in between the two cars, so I'd actually prefer to be left or right. But that's just one reason. Being sandwiched in between two cars and getting hit from behind is like worst case scenario. You just don't want that. Another reason, traction. You can see the car in front of me. You can see where its tires are, right? Any debris, oil, junk, rocks, just stuff on the road is going to be pushed away from the tires and is going to gather in the center lane, right where I'm sitting. So as I'm coming to a stop, as I'm slowly applying the brakes, progressive braking or emergency braking, whatever I might need to do, I'm actually in the worst place to be when it comes down to having traction in the road. So you always want to think about where you're going to have the best grip, where the tires are going to make the best connection to the road, and what's going to give you the best traction. So that's reason number 2. And ultimately, the most important reason, and the reason why I always choose to be in the left of center here or like the right of center lane, is going to be line of sight. So right now where I'm sitting, and I'm probably sitting a little too close to this car, but where I'm sitting right now, I can see all the cars in front of that car. I can see those two, the two, and then another 2. So I can basically see what 6 cars are doing at any time. If somebody brakes, if somebody merges, if somebody emergency stops, if somebody hits something, whatever it might be, right? I can see what's happening, and if I need to, I can adjust, I can maneuver, and I can go either direction. I can go left, I can go right. If I'm in the middle, right here, while I'm traveling, I cannot see, in this case it's probably a bad example because this car is pretty small, but just in general, I can't see what's happening past, even if I can see over this car, I can't see what's happening past the car in front. So if the car in front of that car decides to slam on its brakes, I'm going to find out a second, maybe 2 seconds after I would if I was on either side of center. On top of your own line of sight and being able to see forward, the cars can see you in their mirrors. They can actually see you a lot easier on your left or right hand mirror than they will in the rear view. Believe it or not, very few people use their rear view mirrors. Big trucks, box trucks, semis, their rear view mirror doesn't even do them any good because it's blocked off by their cab, right? So think about the other people seeing you, and you always want to be the most seen that you can possibly be. That's just a rule of thumb. We're riding like we're invisible. We want to be seen as much as we possibly can, okay? So breaking all of those down, I'm in, again, the worst position that I could possibly be right now in the center of this lane. And again, for demonstration purposes, I'm keeping my eyes on the people behind me so that I don't get sandwiched myself while I'm talking about it. But in traffic while I'm riding, and I'm right here, terrible. The one time when I will say that being in the center is completely fine, it works, it's no big deal, is whenever you are, what is happening here, is whenever you are the only vehicle, you're not following behind people, you're on a highway, it's wide open, you're not worried about people coming up behind you, maybe there's no stop signs, whatever it might be, and you're just cruising down the road, okay? Fine-ish. I still would be concerned for traction, I still would be a little bit, you know, wary of oncoming cars the other direction, but in general, I would say that's probably one of the only times. In general, as we saw in that video, because of where I was in the lane, I was able to not only not be hit by her, but I was also able to safely maneuver even closer to the lane, right? And then let her pass and do her thing. So if you're not a rider, or you are a rider and you were unsure or kind of curious of what the proper procedure, proper placement to be in the lane would be, I hope this helps a little bit. But again, if you're not a rider and you see people hugging the lane or doing whatever, right? And just know it's not always about trying to get ahead. It's not always about trying to you know, scoot to the front and pass everybody. A lot of times it's for visibility, it's for safety, and I hope this kind of sheds some light on it. You know, people said if you weren't in that position, you wouldn't have been overtaken. It doesn't matter where I am in the lane. From the paint to the paint, I'm entitled to the same space as a car. So it doesn't matter what lane position I choose to be in, right? I'm actually going to be entitled to this whole space, and I can move around in it freely without inviting somebody to pass me or to occupy my lane, right? So again, hope that helped. If you have questions, comments, or if you disagree, let me know. Let's chat about it in the comments. Until next time, be safe.